Hi everybody, I'm Corey, the scruffy looking nerd hoarder. Today we are not working on the workbench. Things happened, but before we get too far into that, I do want to introduce you to Zumi, the official mascot of the channel. Now, Zumi is a smart doll from Japan and another one of the things that I have collected. It's part of the hoard. She's got about, I don't know, 15, 20 just like her upstairs. That is something that I do with Anna, and if you want to find out more about that, you can check out our other channel where it is all about dolls, and that is Kitten Cat Shop, and I'll put a link down in the description to that channel. But the reason why we're not building a workbench today is because I have a certain vision in my head for what I actually want that to be, and I did not have everything that I needed to get measurements to design the thing. And I was gonna do it all over the Thanksgiving holiday, but the place I needed to go to try and acquire a piece of equipment was not open until after Thanksgiving. But what I needed was this right here. I wanted a CRT monitor because I've got some old computers that I'm going to restore, and I want to have this one shelf that has CRT monitor, regular monitor, TV, one place where everything can be displayed nice level. But in order to do that, I had to get measurements, and I needed the equipment that was going to be measured. I want to do a haul video because when I went to the place that I had in mind to try and find a CRT monitor and I got this, I did find some other things which really piqued my interest, and I had a great time. I went to basically my own version of heaven, just this giant warehouse full of old nerdy electronic crap and a guy who was willing to let me take stuff home for a modest fee. So the first thing that I found when I went to the pile of monitors to try and find one that worked was a little bit of my own past. Way back in the day, back in the 90s, I was a certified Apple technician. I could fix Apple IIs. If any of you have an Apple II that you want to get rid of, let me know down in the comments or send me an email, also linked in the comment in the description. I wound up being the only Macintosh technician in a very large company in Arizona. And so I'm an old Mac guy. I don't use them anymore, mostly because of the price and because, well, I was trying to play games and I could get more of the games on the PC, and my career moved in a direction where I needed to be more focused on PC related stuff. But when I was looking at the CRTs, I was able to find this, an old Apple iMac. So I picked this up at the same time, and it has been giving me all sorts of joy and frustration. As you can see, I've got the classic Flying Toasters screensaver going in demo mode. It won't actually launch itself. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I haven't given a lot of time to it either. I did find some other stuff that I picked up, and that is what's in this box. Two things that I found that I've been looking for are these are old Sound Blaster cards. I found a Sound Blaster Live card, which I think I actually had in one of my systems way back when, and a Sound Blaster Audigy 2. Now these are going to get used in the old computer systems when I get around to doing those. Need the bench for that, so this was kind of a target of opportunity, which I was very grateful for. Another thing they had a bunch of was some PlayStation 3 Slims. Now the guy that has this place, he actually has some guys that try to fix these things, and this one has a note on it saying what it is and what has been done to it, and it apparently still has a bit of a problem. So since I only have one PS3 and I don't have a PS3 Slim, I figured that would be a good thing to have in my collection to see if we can't get it up and running, and then I've got a daily driver and my original can stay pristine. I also found one other thing. I found this old Game Boy, and it has some problems. It's got very corroded and messed up battery contacts. It does have a game in it. Looks like it is Donkey Kong, but I was quite pleased about this. Might have to replace this screen, but I think what we're gonna do is, since I've basically shown everything, is I think I'm gonna shut that off, set up an overhead rig on this desk here. I think we'll try tearing this apart. I already ordered a replacement battery cover and some replacement battery contacts. So I think we're gonna try and clean that up and play around with this and see if it works, and if not, what do we have to do to get it to work.
Looking at the back, you can see that there is a lot of corrosion all around there. There's some stuff on there that doesn't even look like corrosion. The first bit of prep work that I did for this entire project was go to the dollar store and get a 5-pack of crappy little toothbrushes. And we're just gonna try and get as much of this loose stuff off as we can. This spring was really bent. I was hoping that I could just leave the parts that I bought in the container and just bend this at least enough to get a test to see if this thing would even power up without doing a major teardown. All of the fancy restoration channels do all of this battery rolling and scraping noises and everything else, so I thought I'd give it a try. Not exactly sure how well it's going to work. No light, no power. We'll just double check the batteries, make sure they all went in the right way, and spin them around, see if they can get any contact before testing again. Still no good. Even if I never get this thing working, hey, free Donkey Kong game. One of the channels that I watched that kind of inspired me to do this is Odd Tinkering, and he linked to this toolkit, so I bought one. never really liked the way these cables plug into their sockets. It's just, you're always afraid you're going to break them, you're going to bend the pins, something screwy's going to go on. It's just, I don't like them, but when they use them, you got to do what you do. I was really happy to see this. Comparing the inside of the case with the outside, they're pretty much the same color. Don't get to try any retro brighting this go around, but I don't have to do any retro brighting this go around either. This was a bit of a surprise to me. That little cover for the communications port was still there. It's the original, it's the same color. Those things usually get lost and you never see them, so I was really happy about that. Okay, I'll admit I was a little impatient here. I shouldn't have been using my needle nose pliers to do this. Should have used a dental pick or a screwdriver or something. There's little clips underneath there that you have to push in to get those things out of the plastic. And it took me a little bit to figure out, hey, there's a better way to do this, and then do it. I don't know what most of this stuff is. It doesn't look like your typical corrosion. I don't know. Ice cream? I have no idea. I'm checking here to see if any of the battery corrosion made it to the board. Things are looking pretty good. I don't see that it's actually marred anything. The springs are in pretty good shape. I think I need to bend that spring a little bit more. It's still just a little bit wonky, so we'll get that back, and it doesn't look like I'm gonna have to replace these that are soldered onto the board at all, so good for me. Not far from where I live, there is a restaurant supply store, so I can get these little restaurant cups really cheap, and I'd really rather use them than what I see a lot of people on YouTube doing, which is pouring the alcohol into the lid, because you keep dipping it in there, you're going to get the contaminants in the bottle if you put them all on the lid, so I tend to do it this way. I'm hoping here that I can clean these up and reuse them and save the new parts that I bought for a future restoration, because I've got 2 more Game Boys, but this just wasn't coming off. I'll have to go in later and try the vinegar baking soda cleaning method and see if I can get them reusable. I was getting a little ahead of myself here. I was about to put these in, then remembered I actually need to clean the entire thing, and to do that I had to take this plate off so that we could get them into some soapy water. got some warm water here, and I'm using the Dawn spray to get this thing clean. I think it's a little bit more convenient than mixing up regular dish soap down in the water. One thing you will note, I do not follow the tendencies of a lot of other restoration people. You will not see a rubber duck in this video. There were a few stubborn areas down inside some of these cracks, and I had to scrape it just a little bit with the screwdriver to get them out of there before I was ready to call this good. Since I had made this water nice and soapy, I couldn't really rinse it, so I took this into the kitchen to rinse it off. These replacement battery terminals did not have the little clips like the originals, but they were a really snug fit. I had to really press them down in there. I hope I don't have to take them out again. With the case clean and dry, I can put the circuitry back in so I can start doing some testing to see what we've got going on in here, whether this will actually function now that I can get some power to it. One thing you might notice as I put these screws back in, I always turn it counterclockwise. That's because a lot of these screws are self-tapping. They just go into the plastic and cut their own threads. I do not want to cut too many threads in there, so I turn it backwards until I hear it kind of clunk into place, and then I know I'm in the same threads and I'm not cutting new ones. That way, if I have to take it apart again and again, I can keep it pretty much intact and the screws are still going to work. Putting the plastic power slider back on the switch, and just for some foreshadowing here, future me is going to be really upset with what I did right here. With new battery terminals and everything cleaned up, we can slide this thing back in here. Had to use my needle nose pliers. I have special ones that I use for this. They do not have any teeth in them. They're smooth on the inside so I don't damage anything. But this is going to tell us whether we have a working Gameboy or not once I get some batteries in. ordered this off of Amazon, just got a green one, and it's a pretty close match. It's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty good. And let's put in the cart that came with it and see if it'll power up. We got a light. It works. After remembering about the contrast knob, I can see the first real problem. The vertical blank lines going up there. That's going to be a very common problem with these things, and we'll see what we can do about fixing that. Also, we're not getting any sound, but the game is booting and everything seems to play, just no sound and two obnoxious lines. I couldn't help myself. I really like Donkey Kong. I played it a lot when I was a kid in the arcade and the crappy Atari 2600, but I died, so now we're done. Time to take the front panel off with the screen on it so that we can try the fix for those two vertical lines and get everything cleaned. There's a few little plastic clips here that need to be dealt with, and after getting the screws out, and then everything should pop out. There is some adhesive on the screen, but it was so old this popped pretty much right off as soon as I was able to get those clips released. All in all, compared to a lot of the other old Game Boys that I've seen be restored on YouTube, this is really clean. I didn't see any dead bugs. I didn't see a lot of grime in the grooves or anything. It's in really good shape. The glass is even in good shape. Some more of the regular alcohol to clean up the speaker and to clean up the contact pads for all the buttons, and just give it an overall general cleaning. I took the front case into the other room and cleaned that up with soap and water, just using a kitchen sink instead of a tub in my office underneath the camera. I hope you guys can forgive me. I wound up having to take this back apart a little bit to clean that power switch, because I had forgotten to do that before I put it in there, and here's where I really screwed up. after screwing the board back in, one thing I did do was use the alcohol and the toothbrush to clean the headphone jack quite a bit because there was no audio. What I was hoping was that it was just a contact, because when you plug in the headphones, it's supposed to cut off the speaker. Sometimes they get stuck. So I cleaned that, hoping that that would resolve the sound issues. After getting it put back together and cranking up the contrast, you can really see those two blank lines. And pressing down on the contacts really didn't do anything to make any difference. So we're going to try to do a trick that we saw numerous videos about. Awesome. Cleaning that headphone jack seems to have restored the sound. Everything I saw online told me that I needed to use my soldering iron, so I busted out my trusty, rusty Radio Shack soldering iron. The first thing I needed to do was get this foam strip off of here. Then there's an adhesive strip that also needs to come off. You power it on without a cartridge in there and adjust the contrast knob so that it's a completely black screen so we can see those blank lines really clearly. I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any solder left on the tip because I just needed the heat. I wasn't actually doing any soldering. So soaked the sponge, cleaned the tip, and made sure that it was hot, listening for the sizzle. I did a little color correcting here to make it easier to see on the camera, but from what I understand, underneath this plastic is an adhesive that just holds everything down, all of the contacts. There's no actual metal connections, but what you do is you use your soldering iron to heat up the adhesive. It will go back down, and you're watching for the flickering lines to show where everything is making contact. And as I was going through this, I just wasn't seeing any flickering on those 2 pixel lines that were there. Everything around it was flickering and coming undone and reattaching, but the 2 that were blank just weren't connecting at all. I used my screwdriver to put a little pressure on there to see if there was any flickering and to kind of help cool down that glue a little bit, but those lines just would not show anything. Luckily, I've got a spare, but looking at this one, I'm not quite sure, but let's plug some batteries in and see if anything happens. The one in really bad shape had some screen rot, it wouldn't power on, so let's try the one that's in a little bit better shape and see if it'll power on. No luck, but the screen's in pretty good shape, so we're going to take this apart and see what happens if we plug in this screen to the green Game Boy. Okay, the screen actually comes on. Everything looks good with good power connections. Still has the vertical lines on there, but we'll try that same trick on this screen and see if maybe we have better luck. Taking this apart, it was kind of unusual because the case screws were not the tri-wing screws that you usually see, and there was this screw that was just stuck to the magnet of the speaker. No idea where it came from. I think this is a spider. I hope it's a spider. It's actually more tolerable. Okay, let's see if we can fix these vertical lines with that. Oh, forgot to get the foam and the adhesive off of this one. Okay, let's try it again, starting over on the left. Oh, that came right on. Heat that up, see if we can get it to stay black. Try the other side. Keep going with this, heating it up, watching the lines, hoping that they come back as it cools down. to the other side while the left side cools down. And you can see those lanes just flickering on, flickering off. And what we're shooting for here is that they will all come on and stay on as everything cools down. If you look at the left side, you can see the lines are mostly gone. There, the last one just went in. We're just heating everything up. Everything's looking good here. This was the easy fix that I was hoping for. I went back over to the other side because it looked like the very far line was not coming on, and I kept going back, reheating it, and it took me a little bit to realize what I was looking at was actually the shadow of the lines on the back glass, but everything was good. We just used that screwdriver to get everything down and cool off that glue, and we're good to go. Okay, I grabbed a different game mostly because I really wanted to hear this music. Time to take everything apart and give all the other pieces a good cleaning before reassembling it. Just give the buttons a quick test, make sure that everything is actually in there and there's the clicky clicky going on. And here's where I start to realize where I had screwed up. Little bit of a problem here. It won't go together. Things are not lining up. Crap. So what happened is the plastic tab that is part of the power switch has a tab on it. So when you power on the Game Boy, a little plastic tab goes across the top of the cartridge so you can't remove it while you're playing a game. And I put it in upside down so the case wouldn't actually close. So I had to take it apart, turn it over, and put it back together again. Before putting the screws in to secure the case together, one more quick test to make sure everything went together okay. Okay, we're good. Pull out the batteries, put the case screws back in, and then we're just about ready to start playing with our toy. The screen looks good, the sound is good, all the buttons appear to be working, and I'm just going to dance to this music for a little bit because I really like it. That actually went on a lot longer than what I had filmed. I got kind of caught up in playing Tetris, and I think I made it to level 3 before stopping. Let's try the game that was actually in here when I found it, the Donkey Kong. Now we don't have those lines in there, everything looks good, I can hear the sound, we're good. I do have to apologize again for all the background noise on this recording. I don't know why my camera mic was picking up every little sound. I don't know what it is. I will try to get it fixed for the next one.
And that's it. That's the haul video. We were able to get this up and running good. I've tested it with several games. They all seem to work good. The one that came with it, Donkey Kong, working great. Did have to cannibalize this one. So this is the one that we couldn't get the two vertical lines to come back. Might have had to spend some more time on it. Not sure, but this one and this one are both candidates for a future mod. I think this one might be the one that gets a new screen, or this one, because from what I've been seeing, you actually have to modify the case a little bit, and this one's missing a whole bunch of crap. So this one we might do later, give it a new screen and a new piece of glass, and do some retro brighting so it's not brown. But I'm really happy, especially since that was part of a deal where I got a whole bunch of stuff for a really good price, and it works great. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for joining me. I'm really glad that we finally got around to doing our first Actual restoration, quick one, relatively easy. Didn't have to do a whole lot of troubleshooting, just, you know, kind of some shotgun tech stuff with replacing entire boards. But we've got one good working original Game Boy. So that's it. Remember, it's not hoarding if it's cool shit. See you guys.